What's up everybody, today I'm gonna be looking at another video game UI and it's gonna be none other than The Last of Us Part 2. Now this game is a little bit violent and also quite controversial, so a lot of the people who loved the first game really hate this one. And I actually loved the first game and I think this one is still pretty good. So I'm not gonna cover the gameplay, I'm just gonna talk about the UI of the menus. So to get the inspiration for the best way to handle the UI, I went to the woods and shot some evil monsters. So before we begin, I also have to say that this game is heavily praised for its accessibility features, so I'm gonna cover those a little bit as well. So yeah, that was a long intro, but let's begin. So the first problem is that using just transparency is not enough for the selected option. So even just a simple border or frame would suffice here. But the menu is generally clear and I really like how it fades to black when you're actually browsing the menu. And everything is nicely explained on the right side. Now in the fast pacing of the game itself, you can't really appreciate all the little details. So this model viewer part, which actually takes a little while to load, is just mind-blowing and amazing. You can zoom in to the characters and just see how detailed and how awesome it is. Like, I remember games being just a couple of pixels and just, this is unprecedented, this is just unbelievable. So then going into the options, we can try and customize the controls, and what I also noticed is that the toggles don't really change that much, it just says on and off, and the colors are pretty similar, so it's really not that easy to discern them. And in many cases the game actually shows you a visual cue on the right side as a photo of what this particular option does, and I think this is a great idea, but it's not really that consistent, and I'm gonna tell you why in a minute. And looking at the sliders, if 10 is the maximum, then 5 should be in the center of the slider, but it's really not. And here's that inconsistency. So if you go to reticles and modify them, you'll see them change on the screenshot. But if you go to any other options, you don't really see them change. Like if you turn off the damage indicators, they're still on the screen. Same with the throwing paths. If you set them to off, there should be no path on the screen. I think that having it turn off and on the image itself would actually give a lot more context for people, so they'll be easier to understand. Especially when you go to the subtitle settings and try to modify them, you'll actually see those subtitles and their sizes and their colors right there. So in here it's completely in context and it's really not in some of the other settings. What's really awesome is that this is one of those rare games with like a lot of accessibility features. So they really tried to make it as accessible as possible, all the way from easier combat to just making the enemies a lot easier to see in dark areas. So great job here. And while those visual examples are really not that important, because while you're playing the game you're gonna get what they do anyway, I think that the main menu selection should be improved. Because if you want the game to be accessible for people with vision problems, you should really help them also be able to use the menu, right? Like it's their starting point into the game. And adding an outline or an underline to the currently selected option would just easily solve that. So I really liked playing the game, but I couldn't really not look at it with a designer's eye, so I just had to record this short video about the menus. So this is by no means a critique, because they done a great job overall, but just found and noticed some things that I think might be useful to fix in some future update. Yeah, so that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers! Well, that is unexpected.